I'm Tom Vassell.
I'm Melody.
And today we're taking a look at Way of the Panda. Now this came out, I was very interested in it, especially when I saw what was inside here because there are
pandas.
Oh my goodness. 12 big miniature pandas and then a whole pile of weeny little pandas. Although they're actually guards. Like, they're not like baby pandas, but you liked them because they were cute pandas. Okay. So this game is about pandas who are going into cities and building buildings and things. So what makes this game panda-ishy?
They're pandas.
Yeah, okay. So what she meant was nothing. They could literally have taken the pandas out of this game, replaced it with samurai warriors, and it would be the exact same game. No one eats bamboo. I agree, pandas look cooler, and that's something, just try to temper your expectations. I'm about to show you the game, and it's not very panda-y other than how it looks, but it looks amazing. Here it is. In this game, each player is going to get a sheet here that shows your 3 different heroes that you have. You have a monk, a governor, and a warrior. You're going to get a piece that matches each of these. You have the different colors on them, the bases to differentiate them. Players will be taking turns placing these in different starting spots on the board. There will also be some random buildings put out on the board in starting cities based on some cards that put them out randomly. Players are also going to get a bunch of guards in their color. The number of guards you get is based on the number of players. And then you'll also get some roads. These are more guards that you have, and these are going to be shown to cover up the roads. You're going to be able to stick a guard covering up one of the ninjas on the board. And then players are going to start. Now, in this game, players are going to be placing guards to take actions. Players are going to be taking turns in a turn order, and each round, whoever has the fewest actions is going to go first. And you're going to be able to place some of your guards. You'll start with, like I said, a certain number of guards based on the number of players. If you have no guards, you're kind of out of luck. But you can place 1 guard in these columns here, and 2 guards go in the last column. When you place somebody, you pick one of the, like here it has 2 sides, so I'm going to pick one of the sides. If someone else is already in that spot, you can still go there. You just have to put more guards than they put. You can even put more guards in a spot where you already have people. Once you put these guards in, you'll take the action of that spot. Once you pick the spot, your next time you pick a spot, you're going to have to pick a spot that's either in a lower row or in a column that's farther to the right. But putting out these workers isn't the only thing, these guards. You also have to pay action points. The top row here costs 0. It costs 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 action points. Well, players only start with 4 action points. You can actually go into the negative action points if you want, but you'll lose victory points if you do so. So players are going to take turns going around the table. Once you don't want to place any more guards, you will pass. After everyone has passed, you will then look. So let's say, for example, I put my first one here, my second one here, my third one down here. So far these first 2 cost me 0. This one would have cost me 2 action points. And then finally I put 2 guys here for my last action. And I put them here, and that's going to cost me 3 action points. So I'm actually going to lose 2 victory points for doing that. When the round's over, I'm going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 action points back. So I would go back up to 4. You get 1 action point for every panda you pull. Now, what do these action points do? The whole game kind of rotates around them. Many of them are going to let you move the different characters. Let's zoom up a little bit. You can move your monk, your governor, or your warrior along a path. You can pull them off the board or put them back on the board in any city. This fat panda over here stands for any panda. You can do any of the pandas on the board. You can build buildings in different areas. You can add these tokens to your panda board. So what does all that mean? Well, you're going to be wanting to move on the board to build buildings. This is one of the main ways to get points in the game. Each of your warriors is going to have a certain number of strength. You all start with one of your preferred ways of fighting or combat or whatever it might be. So I have a strength of 1. If, as the game goes by and using some of the action tokens, I can add more to these. So maybe, for example, I get another of these these necklaces here. my strength is still 1, but if I get another one, my strength is 2. When you move your character on the board, you cannot move over more ninjas than your strength. So my strength being 1, I can move over this ninja. If I do so, I drop a guard, eliminating that ninja. I could not have moved on this path because there's still 2 ninjas there. Although there is a worker placement path, a worker placement spot that lets you move over ninjas and have 1 less than normal. But every time you move over ninjas, you will drop a guard on them. When all the guards on a path have been dropped, whoever has the most gets to put out, let's say I was orange, I get to put out this road here to cover that, showing that I've completed that. That's now safe to travel back and forth between those cities. And I also get my guards back, which I'll need to use for other things. And so it's possible and likely probable that different people are going to have different sections of roads done between the different cities as you place these out. And there's 4s and 5s even as you put these on the board. Now, when you're putting out these roads, if you completely surround a city or a town on the board with roads, then points are going to be scored. Whoever puts the guard out that finishes it, that completely shuts the city off, is going to get 2 points there, and then everyone gets 1 point for every guard that you have, either on one of these tiles or on one of your guards that you put out. By the way, if you run out of tiles, there are neutral guards that you will place, but that will still help finish the cities. Another thing you can do is you can build a building in a city. Each of the different 3 types has their own kind of building. Each building can only be built once in the towns. When the 3rd building is put in a town by any of the players, it's going to be removed, and a city is then going to be placed there. Once the city's done, you can then add these 3 things to build a capital. Now, when you build a building, you're going to get points too, according to this chart right here. You can see the first building built is going to score that person 4 points, and there has to be at least 2 guards next to that location. And it goes down 4, 3, 2, then 5, 7, 9. But you're going to need a lot more guards next to finish the capital and get those points. And then each person also gets 1 point for a guard if you're next to a city where a person has built a building. So you can see these are the 2 main ways to get points during the course of the game: building buildings and locations, and also placing victory, completely finishing a city and getting victory points that way. A third main way to get victory points is on your cards themselves. You are going to be trying to improve these to make your pandas more powerful, but over here each of the pandas has its own treasure. These are worth nothing during the course of the game, but you'll be able to get points. Like for example here, this has a multiplier of 1, and this says 4. So 1 times 4 is 4 points. But if I got it up here, I'd get 2 times 4. You can see you can get to a multiplier of 3 times 8 for 24 bonus points. Now that you've seen that, this worker placement board is going to make more sense. Take one of the tiles, build a building, get some victory points, move someone and build a building in a place that there's a city at, move somebody twice, get some more action points, get 4 action points for going there. And so as you do these, you're trying to pick the best selections of actions until the game is over. There's a few other things. As you move your pandas, you're even allowed to move them to the edge off the map, essentially, and then you can move them along the side so they can come back on the map on another road. There's also up here bonus mandates. These are not necessarily in the game. They're an extra thing that you can add if you want to. You can pick 2 cards or randomly pick 2 cards. One that will score you during the game, like here, you complete a 4-road loop that has all your road tiles or neutral tiles, or be the first player to build 4 pagodas, or the first person to build 4 gates, etc. You get points during the game. So you have 1 card that will give you points during the game, and 1 at the end of the game. The longest network of gates. You've connected different sides of the map, and you'll get bonus points. Or you have 3 champions in the same city, or 3 champions in the same capital. By the way, the game ends when there are 5 cities on the board, or when there are 2 capitals, which means you have these cities that are completely filled with buildings. You'll add in any bonus points, and whoever has the most is the winner of the game. Before we jump, I want to quick show you, because you probably want to see them. There is a whole lot of plastic in this game, and a lot of it you've been seeing me move around the orange pandas, but there's also quite a few of, there's the yellow pandas, the purple pandas, and the white pandas, each of them having their own thing, and then a bunch of little guards. The components for this game are amazing.
Yes.
Melody was just saying it would look good painted.
So even if it not, the details are pretty cool.
Yeah, and each of the 3 clans, their pandas are different.
Yes.
They didn't have to do that because it really only the base matters. But it looks great as you move the pandas around, except the one problem this game has with the pieces, I think, are the cities. Because once you build a city in a spot, moving your panda into that city, they don't sit on the base, they kind of fall off. If you have 2 or 3 pandas in the same city where there's a building, it's like, how do we fit all this stuff in here? I felt that was kind of meh. It's like all this cool and you're trying to put these pieces. It just didn't work as well. Other than that, it looks gorgeous. The whole thing looks beautiful.
Yes.
Except, as I said, didn't have to be pandas.
I don't.
Well, I'm just saying. Okay? Okay, but I'll get off that. The game itself is a mix between area control and a really weird is a bad word, a different worker placement game. Yeah, it's unique because you're placing these workers, which you don't have unlimited workers, but you'll very rarely run out of workers, maybe towards the end of the game, if you put out a lot of guards. But what you run out of quickly are action points.
Yes.
And then you can only place below or to the right. So you have to think about your first action. You definitely want to place out the pandas that are free to put out, because then you get more actions for the next turn. So you're always, when you're placing, you're thinking about, what does this let me do now? And what will give me next turn? Yeah. What did you think of that whole like grid?
I thought it was actually pretty cool because like the more powerful actions had the more action points, and then you're like watching how many actions you might get the next turn to see, because like you might really need to do that action, but do you want to wait for another turn when you have more actions, and like that one turn instead of just using all your action points then. And also I like how you like kind of cut off yourself on the grid sometimes.
Yeah, it's really, I found that part fascinating because there's the one that gives you the extra action points. Definitely worth it, right? But then you skip a lot of other ones to get down there.
Yeah.
And if someone takes the action you want, you can still do it, but you need to put more workers there, which isn't always even a bad thing because that gives you more actions for the next turn. It's this really kind of weird ebb and flow as these actions. You have some this turn, you have some next turn.
And then you also, like, you can use those 2 extra action points, but you lose points.
Yeah, and that's a really weird thing. Like, I don't know that I've ever used the second one.
No.
Like the -2, but I've definitely used 1 before because I figured I'm going to get more points from doing this. So bringing it around to the board then, so the board has ways to get points. Surrounding a city completely with guards, you get a lot of points, especially if other people are there. I mean, if it's mostly yours, you get a ton of points. So surrounding a city with pandas by yourself gets a lot of points. But building a building gets you points as long as other people are there. So you walk this fine balance of, do I want to do it myself or do I want to do it with other people? Because of that, I think the game plays exceptionally better with more players.
Yes.
You agree? We played a 2-player game. And it was good. I didn't dislike it. But when we played with more, I was like, oh, wow. Completely different now because
you're counting all these different people who are also making the roads, and like you actually get more points that way too.
And it feels like there's more competition for things. Like when we played, Melody would be like, all right, well, I'm going to work on the monk and get him up. And I'm like, fine, I'm going to work on the red panda or whatever. You know, we worked at, but when there's 4 players, you're like, oh, wait, someone's going for the same one I am for sure. And I just found that to be more interesting. Also, there's the extra thing where you have the card that gives you points during the game and cards at the end. Always play with those.
Yes.
They made that an advanced role, whatever. Always play with it because it kind of gives the game a little bit more focus.
Sometimes. There are some cards that are a lot harder to do than others.
Yeah, that's true. Some of those are like, man, that's a real pain in the neck. I'm not even going to try for that. And other ones was like, wow, okay, this one gives you points for every city at the end of the game. I better get next every city at the end of the game type things. What do you think of the strategy of the game, the placing of the workers and the guards and all that?
I thought it was really cool because I did like moving your pandas around, defeating the bandits on the road, trying to plan your moves so that you can actually go from one place to the other without getting blocked and like stuck in a city until someone else puts like a panda in there. I love the grid of putting the actions to do stuff on the board and leveling. There was like a lot of stuff, but also didn't seem like you're doing too much stuff, which was which for me it worked.
Yeah, well, what do you think of the game overall?
I really like the game.
Oh, okay. What would you rank it?
Probably like a 7.5, like 8.
Well, that's not really.
Well, like I'm also trying to compare it to other games, but
Are you biased because there's pandas in it?
that's the thing. Like, I also agree. Like, maybe the panda theme isn't as strong because, like you said, you can take them out. But I still like it with pandas.
Okay.
I'd rather have pandas than a boring theme.
I agree with Melody there. Okay. I don't want people to be like, I'm not down on pandas. I think pandas are great, and I would hug a baby panda if I saw one. And I think that the pandas in here are cool looking. It adds to the art. I'd rather it be pandas than not.
Yes.
I just thought that they also maybe could have went into the theme. Taking the pandas out, just looking at the game as a game. The worker placement is something I haven't seen before. Where I've seen before parts of it.
8.
Before, but the board part, I've seen that sort of thing before, controlling cities, putting out buildings, and also collecting tokens, make you stronger.
I like the part where you can like move around the board, like on the outside of it, to get from. It's different, this game. Yes.
I'll give it a 7. I like the game. I think it's fine. I don't think I like it as much as Melody does, but it sure looks amazing, and I think a lot of people are going to enjoy it. Well, anyway, that's Way of the Panda. I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Melody.
And you've been watching Double Trouble.
Boom!
Isn't that what a panda makes?
No.
Oh.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.